Well, our hammerhead has cooled overnight. It's now ready to do a little bit of finish grinding on, get it in final shape. Looking at the little bit of an offset, the diamond we looked at yesterday, the eye runs straight and parallel with the sides. So the sides really aren't a problem. It's the top and the bottom that's just a little bit out of square, and it isn't really all that bad. This is about a 1/16 of an inch out of square. So I think I can just grind the high side off the top. It'll take a little bit of weight off the hammer, which hopefully won't be too much. And both sides of the hammer are about the same square-wise. That'll square this up. It'll make it look good. It'll keep the eye running parallel with the sides. Shouldn't be any trouble at all. Then I'll clean up the peens and grind the profile on the peens and get that ready to go before we harden it. Now we started with 3 pounds, 14 ounces of steel to make this hammer, and we now have, after forging, 3 pounds, 12.5 ounces. So right now we're still 4 ounces heavier than what I want this to be. That should be plenty of material to do some grinding. For that matter, I may have to grind a little bit more aggressively if I really want to get it down to exactly 3.5 pounds. So I'm going to go to the grinder. I don't think I'm going to show all the grinding, but I'll show a little bit of it because this is going to be about a half an hour of just creating sparks, and that doesn't make for a very exciting video. Now I've actually made 2 of these hammers. One of them I did before the first video as kind of a test piece, and that's a little bit bigger one. After grinding, it weighs 3 pounds, 15 ounces, so almost 4 pounds. The smaller one that should weigh 3.5 pounds or 3 pounds, 8 ounces, weighs 3 pounds, 8.3 ounces. So after hardening, tempering, a little bit of polish, we're going to be right on the money with this one. Now, I think the next thing I want to do is get rid of all the grinding lines. I don't like grinding lines. I would rather not have to grind them. But since I need to do a little grinding to clean it up and get it all straight in line the way I wanted it to, I went ahead and ground the whole thing so it's all done evenly. But for a next step, I'm going to bring them back up to a red heat, and I'm going to wire brush them with a power wire brush. Now, cut brushes can be very dangerous. I'm going to lock a drift in my vise, and I'm going to just put this over the drift so I can't launch it across the room. I don't have to try and hold it with a pair of tongs. And this is actually a sander polisher, not an angle grinder. So it has an adjustable speed. I can turn it down to about half the speed of an angle grinder. That makes it safer to use than a wire brush on an angle grinder. Be really careful if you're going to try something like this, but the finish from a power wire brush on hot material is quite nice. Wire brushing things hot like that really gets all the scale off, leaves a very nice smooth finish, depending on scratch marks, hammer marks, things like that, of course. But I think it will make a nicer looking product in the long run. I took them as still hot from wire brushing. I put them in the heat treat oven. I've got this set to soak at 1200 degrees for 20 minutes. Get them nice and evenly hot. Then it'll come up to 1725 degrees. That's the proper quenching temperature for S7. I'll also let it soak for another 20 minutes once it gets there, make sure it's good and hot all the way through. Then I'll bring them out. I'm going to let them air cool. Typically S7 is an air cooling steel. Although something this heavy, you can oil quench it. Oil quenching is considered an acceptable practice for heavy stuff, but I don't think hammers need to be that hard. It doesn't need to be just glass hard or brittle hard. I'd rather have a hammer that dents a little bit if you accidentally hit your anvil than have a hammer that chips if you accidentally hit your anvil. So I'm going to bring these up to heat, I'm going to air cool them, and then it'll be time to temper them. Well, it's been about 2 hours coming up to heat for our two hammerheads. They're well into their 20-minute soak period. That's just about done, so it's time to bring these out. I'm going to let them air cool. I've got a little work stand here with a couple of prongs on it that I can set the eye of the hammer down. That way air circulates all the way around the hammerhead. Should cool nice and evenly. This will probably take close to an hour to cool. This is a big hunk of metal. It needs to cool till I can pick it up and touch it. Then we'll temper it. Well, it's been a little over an hour, and these are still nice and cozy warm, but they're easy to pick up and hold. So they've cooled off very nicely. Now, a quick look at them. I don't see any cracks, which is what I always worry about right after hardening. Although air quench steels don't tend to crack as easily in the air quenching as do water or oil quench steels. So now the next thing to do is to temper these. And again, this is a very easy, largely hands-off process. I put them in a toaster oven, set at 450, which in this case is the ideal temperature for what I want to do with these hammerheads. This toaster oven has a timer. I set it for an hour. I ignore it. In fact, this whole hardening and tempering process is largely hands-off because I let them sit in this oven. It takes about 2 hours for everything to come up and cycle through, get up to the right heat, go through the soak times. Then it's another hour, hour and a half waiting for these things to cool. Then another hour in the tempering oven. So it's an all-afternoon commitment to do this. But while these things are going through the heating cycles and the cooling cycles, I go do other stuff in the shop. I don't sit here and watch the oven and see what it's doing, but I check in on it every now and then just in case there's some sort of an error. So that's pretty much it for today. As I say, that's got another hour to sit in the toaster oven. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun has gone behind the ridge line. It's starting to get cold in here, so I might as well go in. That'll shut off all by itself when it's done. Then tomorrow I will heat it up just a little bit more, maybe up to 200 or 300 degrees. Put a little wax on it to help protect it from rust. Polish up the faces on it, and the hammerhead is done. This one actually goes out without a handle, so there's really not much work left to do on it. So I don't know that there needs to be a part 3 to this series. But if you would like to see a part 3, I can include cleaning up the faces, putting the wax on it, and I can put a handle on the other one because it's not spoken for. And I'll probably go ahead and just put a commercial handle on it, and it'll be done and ready to use. So if you guys want to see a short part 3 to this series that just deals with those few little issues, it might be a 10-minute video, maybe less than that. Comment down in the comment section. If not enough people really want to see that, I probably won't bother to do that. But I will try to show at least one of those finished hammers at some point in another video. Now somebody out there is wondering what hardness this is going to be. Now according to Bryson's Heat Treatment and Application of Tool Steels, they have a tempering chart that I go by, and it says at 450 degrees, it's going to be about a Rockwell 58. That's a good hard hammer that's not just remarkably hard, not as hard as a wood chisel or something like that. But for a hammer, that is plenty hard. They just don't need to be all that hard, especially when you're forging hot steel with them because the hot steel doesn't hurt the hammer. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. If you haven't done so already, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button. Feel free to stick around, watch a few of the other videos, share the videos on social media and with your friends, but then make time in your day to get out to your shop, make something. But stay safe, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next one. If you would like to provide financial support for the videos here at Black Bear Forge, you may do so by following one of the links down below in the description. These are merely donations. The videos are free and will remain free.